This is Musie's YouTube podcast, MYPC, recorded at 8:38 p.m. on April 5th, 2013. Today's subject is about Aspergers syndrome and autism and how it affects my life directly and indirectly. First off, I would just like to say that I have received no emails from you guys, so it'd be greatly appreciated if you actually, sent me emails about subjects. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pick them out of my butt to come up with something to talk about involving this month. Hopefully I can get this uploaded in a decent enough time. I do have to work in the morning. Don't like it so much. Hopefully I can give you guys a briefer on what autism is. And the reason why autism is our subject is because it is indeed Autism Awareness, or as a lot of people have grown to call it, is Autism Acceptance Month, which I actually prefer that title. Thank you very much. Yes, awareness is important, but quite frankly, we need to worry about other things as well as awareness. We need to be aware there's autism, but we need to also accept it. So, without further ado, allow me to explain briefly what autism is all about. You can look it up on any kind of website in the medical field if you like. However, you will find that if you look it up in the dictionary, any kind of dictionary involving a emotional, mental disability, don't do it. It's going to get you nowhere fast. Why? Well, simply because they like to give out the worst in us when it comes to that kind of situation. It really does bring out the worst of us in terms of definition. Believe me, I am not a fond of Dictionary.com's interpretation of what autism is. I could bring that up actually right now if you guys so wish to hear my finger tapping. Oh, look, I put Dictionary. There we go. D-I-V instead of D-I-C. So, I'm going to look up Asperger's real quick on Dictionary.com. No script here. Here we go. Scroll down. According to Dictionary.com, named after Hans Asperger, who is the guy who discovered Asperger syndrome, described it in 1944. So it's a fairly decently new disorder in terms of how long we've been studying science, although it's fairly old in terms of mental science, because that hasn't been around as long as normal science, air quote that. But anyway, according to the definition, noun, psychiatry, a developmental disorder characterized by severely impaired social skills, repetitive behaviors, and often a narrow set of interests. No, but not involving delayed development of linguistics and cognitive abilities, now considered one of the autism spectrum disorders. Hey, look at that. Awesome. That's not too bad. The narrow set of interests not necessarily applies to everyone on the autism spectrums, but it's not as severe, I guess you could say. In terms of autism, a pervasive developmental disorder of children. First off, it does not affect just children, it affects adults as well. Characterized by impaired communication, excessive rigidity, and emotional detachment. Yeah, there's a problem here, people. If anybody knows why I'm angry right now, it's simply because I'm really sick and tired of people giving this concept and definition of autism as emotionally detached. It's a pretty borderline definition for me personally. I don't... Being a person on the Asperger's side of autism, it's not emotional detachment. In fact, my sister's high-functioning autism. And let's just say that she never really had the emotion detachment. Excuse me, I had supper like an hour ago and it's like trying to come back up my throat. But basically, my autistic sister, who's like 2 years older than me, had no real emotional detachment. And in fact, she would always talk about how she's always so lonely and how she always wants to be around people but can never figure it out. The definitions are really harsh. I remember getting angry at the definition. Okay, here's another part. Part 2 of the noun, which, yes, because we have to clarify that's a noun. Actually, I always debated whether it's... Autism is a noun. I don't know why I'm having a hard time accepting that. Autistically? That's an... Alrighty then! We have autist. Didn't know that was a word. Autistic. Adjective. Autism, the noun. Autistically is the adverb, and unautistic is the adjective. What? Can be confused with artistic. Autistic. What? No. Okay, definition 2. A tendency to view life in terms of one's own needs and desires. A tendency to view life in terms of one's own needs and desires. So you're calling us selfish. Am I getting that correct? You're calling us selfish, basically. Thanks, dictionary. This is why you don't go to dictionary. Dictionary.com for any kind of medical disabilities or any kind of medical definitions. Not even just mental, but physical definitions like diabetes or if you want a cancer. Those are the only ones that are really going to get correct. Here's the thing. Another noun definition, World English Dictionary says abnormal self-absorption. No. Usually affecting children, yes, but does affect adults. You need to clarify that. Characterized by lack of response to people. Right. Reasons for that, though. And actions and limited ability to communicate. Yeah, limited ability to a point. I mean, you can't speak, but that doesn't mean you're limited to communicate. You just can't speak. Or maybe your vocabulary is a little weird. Usage rather than talking about an autistic or autistics, it is better to use phrases such as person with autism, people with autism. There's a good thing. I like that they did that because, you know what? Nobody likes being called an autistic. By the way, I am not a big fan of the fact they're getting rid of the term Aspergers, if they haven't already. For some god unknown reason, they've gotten rid of the term Aspergers. Not a big fan of that. It's kind of like making diabetes one big thing. Diabetes 1 and 2. Aspergers kind of help define the other half of what autism is and the other half of what the disability entails. So whenever they say, oh, you have autism, then apparently it's the same thing as a person who has severe cases where they have seizures, or the regular down the street Joe who doesn't look like he has it at all. I feel like there needs to be some sort of division, because otherwise I'm going to mistake somebody for autistic when it feels too heavy of a word by comparison. So I apologize if I come off as that. Medical dictionary. It's a dictionary. Don't trust it. Abnormal introversion and egocentricity. Acceptance of fantasy rather than reality. This pissed me off when I first heard it. I can't think of the word for what introversion means, but egocentricity, it basically admits that you have an ego and that you're self-absorbed and you are hierarchy. No, actually we're very shy. A lot of us are outgoing and a lot of us are shy. No, we're not. We don't have an ego. Quit giving us acceptance of fantasy rather than reality. No, that is not always the case either. That is very untrue. According to the Science Dictionary, a developmental disorder characterized by severe deficits in social interaction and communication and by abnormal behavior patterns, such as repetition of specific movements or a tendency to focus on certain objects. Autism is evident in the first years of life. Its cause is unknown. See, that's a fair definition. That is a very fair definition. Now, what I'm scared of is the Cultural Dictionary definition. I hope this doesn't come out really bad. Okay, here we go. A serious disorder. A serious disorder. Okay, like, because there's a disorder that's not serious. Appearing in childhood, also appears in adults, people, and characterized by the child's refusal to relate to others and severely limited use of language. Okay, it's not that we refuse, okay? We don't refuse to relate. Sometimes we just can't relate. I don't know why that's so hard. Limited use of language, yeah, that happens. I don't have that. My sister doesn't have that, but I know people who do. I've heard of people who do. The cause of autism in children is unknown. Yes, because autism doesn't occur in adults. But researchers generally feel that it lies in malfunction of the central nervous system, not in the way parents have treated them or in other aspects of the environment. The term is sometimes applied more loosely to adults who are extremely self-absorbed and who see things in terms of their hopes and fantasies rather than realistically. Again, autism affects adults. Dumbasses. So you can see, when you go to the dictionary definition of some of these terminologies and trying to find out what autism is, you're going to find a very mixture of things. They need to change this, like, now. I am very upset of these definitions, okay? You want to know what autism is? Here we go. I picture a pie, okay? Picture this pie. And I know there's other graphs you can use. I know there's some autism tests you can take, or Asperger tests you can take. Excuse me, I'm getting hiccups. Of course, while recording. And you can take this test, and it'll show like 8 different areas of where it can apply. And it'll stretch out, so far to the edge, or maybe it'll come closer. I'm sorry, I just got a message on Facebook about people sounding just like me. Thank you. Thank you for that now. I am closer than you think. Lols. Anyway, so I see these graphs where they have like maybe 8 or so different kind of, I want to say like an internal graph of some kind of line graph. The further out on the outer edge of the circle you are, I think it's the more skilled, air quote skilled, you are in that area. So, if you have social skills, if you have little to no social skills, it'll be closer to the center. If you have fantastic social skills, it'll go to the outside. Picture that, only with 3 main categories: social, communication, and physical. Now, if you have all of these aspects, and you can shorten the piece of pie, you can shorten the piece of pie as much as you could based on the skill on all 3 pieces. Now, I want to add a 4th piece. It's a sliver, and that's for other. They don't apply really to other aspects, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But in the meantime, basically, communication, social, and physical. Now, there's a problem with this, okay? Not very many people know how this is affected, and I really couldn't physically tell you because I am not a doctor, so I can't tell you these things. But I can tell you a couple of things. First off, I can tell you that it affects me primarily socially. Communication, yeah, kind of, not really. Physical, it does to a point, and I will get to that later. But first, a lot of you kind of wanted to understand about my sister. My sister is high-functioning autistic, and high-functioning person of the autism spectrum. Get out of my way, brush. And she is 2 years older than me. She has a lot of the social connection issues, understanding social interaction, much like I do. Communication is a problem. Tenses and vocabulary tend to be an issue with her. And she does a lot of the classic autism symptoms. And I use symptoms loosely, so air quote symptoms. But I will say this, she flaps her hands, not her arms. Her arms are still, like, they go right down, straight down beside her sides, towards her hips, and her hands will flap. Not her arms, but her hands. She has this really interesting walk where she's on her tiptoes and she rocks like a 1, 2, and on the 3rd swing, she kind of raises up on her foot, and she has this really high dipping walk. I can't even describe the words of it, but it's like, I can't even describe how this looks. It's almost like I need a video recording of it. The unfortunate thing is that Erin doesn't even know she has autism. It's really unfortunate, but due to family issues, my mom has not told her. So Erin, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Anyway, so for Erin, it's much different, and I really don't have much information about her, really, because the fact that I don't live with her right now, and the fact that I really can't talk to her about it. She doesn't know. So it's really hard, and I know a lot of you who are on the spectrum are just crying right now because of the fact that she doesn't know. And I mean, come on, how would you feel if you did not know, and you're at your age and did not know how that had to have felt? And there's no way to help her either, because I think she goes to a doctor of some kind, but it's not like as if she has this autism-specific doctor, so I have no idea if she's getting the proper help she needs. Hopefully she is, and hopefully nothing bad will come of it. In the meantime, however, I will be describing my portion. And yes, this is going to be a very long episode today. I apologize, I'm 15 minutes in. I haven't even gotten to the big rant, but that's okay. I apologize. It will be a long episode, so hang tight. Now, in terms of me, I have social interaction issues. There are many a times, much like today, which I'm not going to get into. I actually end up getting really upset today because I apparently did something that was socially not acceptable, even though I was fully, heartfully wanting to be nice. I was being 100% nice, and apparently that's not correct. So, I had a problem with that, and I couldn't do a damn thing about it, so I whined a little bit. But, social interaction for me, and my biggest hardship is that I don't understand sarcasm very well. So if a person is sarcastic, I'm just gonna sit there and be like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So it's a little bit hard to kind of grasp that. I can to a point if it's like severely sarcastic, like it's extreme, I'll get it. It makes sense. Okay, that's just stupid, and I get it. But if it's a minor sarcasm, I might not pick up on it. So there's that for you. Vocabulary and I guess I should say communication. As you can tell, I'm verbal. Otherwise, this podcast would sound like this. It'd be one heck of a pretty boring podcast if that was the case, but hey, at least I got something, right? So, I have communication. I can verbally use my tongue, cheek, and jaw, as well as my breath and my vocal cords to communicate words and through thoughts and ideas to people. And that's a good idea. That's a good thing. It's a great idea. It's so different than other animals because we form words. They don't. Well, parrots do, but that's a little different. Parrots do. Dogs don't. So, communication is a little bit different for me. I tend to have this, I might not say something fully correct, or I might not be able to get the words out of my mouth, or what happens like today on this podcast is where my mind's going 10 million miles an hour and my mouth can't keep up, and so I have to talk really, really fast and hope that my mouth can keep up, and hopefully I can say everything that I want to say, and hopefully my brain doesn't overload. Okay, yeah, you basically get the idea there. I'm talking really fast, so I apologize for that, but I gotta get this done, gotta get this uploaded and go to bed. But a lot of people don't quite understand the physical concept, which usually relates to the thing called stimming. Now, stimming, I do stimming. Like I said about Erin, she flaps her arms, she flaps her hands. I don't really have a stim. Mine's reaction-based on the outside environment and sometimes the inside of my head, not always. If I feel an emotion in my head, like I'm thinking of a scenario and there's an emotion attached to that, it'll show on my face and I won't know it. And then people think I'm upset or I'm really happy when I'm not. And that can get very confusing. A lot of the things I've noticed about my physical stims is where there's heavy machinery. I can't think of what they're called. My brain is like not working at the moment for some reason. And I hear we have a compactor at work. And the machine we use to lift it up and move it to the actual compactor is this big metal bin. It's huge. And those two leveling bars that you slip under things and you lift them up, that thing, when not properly used, and I've had a couple of coworkers say, you can do that without just change a couple gears and you can do it without making this noise. This really, really loud, oh my god, that noise, it hurts my ears. But here's the funny thing about that, it doesn't necessarily hurt my ears. What it actually does is that it hurts my head and my body. Is that, it hurts to the ears. It's not like nails on a chalkboard. It does hurt a little bit because of volume, not so much of pitch. But when the bars hit the metal bin as it's guiding in to get under the bin, it makes this really loud crunch, like this loud steel on steel noise. Everyone else is like, oh, that hurt. And I'm just like, I shrivel. I'll become like really tight. My hands will go over my ears and I will almost go limp. I will almost lean against something. It knocks me. And that's a really weird thing for the common public to understand, especially considering my coworkers. Because what happens is, a lot of people will think that it's the sound is what's hurting me. It's like nails on a chalkboard, okay? When you hear nails on a chalkboard, you hear this really loud pitch, and you get this shiver down your spine, you get this kink in your neck. Here's the thing, with me and that sound of that steel, it's all of that except for the shivering and the direct pain. My body shrivels as in like it crunches, it compacts in, everything wants to come in close, my arms come close to my chest, I tuck my head in, I want to withdraw inward, and all of that occurs instinctively, but there's no pain to attach to that. It's just a reaction I have to do, and I don't know why I do it. Also, I've noticed that when I get really excited, I pull up my arms like a velociraptor, I put my palms towards each other, and I'll move them in and out, like as if I'm going to clap, but I don't quite get there, and I'm just moving my arms back and forth because I'm so excited. Why I do it, I don't know. It just kind of happens. And I'll get really excited, like, yay! And it looks totally weird to everyone, but that's okay. I'm not here to satisfy you, society. I'm not here to make you happy. I'm not here to make anybody happy except for myself and my loved ones. So, there you go. So, we have these three main concepts of what is known as autism or PDD-NOS or Asperger's. Others may apply due in partnership. I hate to say it that way, but other disabilities such as schizophrenia may apply. But it can be stacked along with other disabilities on top of that, so that has moments of that. But I actually got in a tangent with myself. And what I mean by that, I'm not schizophrenic. Don't panic, people, okay? I'm not schizophrenic. There's a concept that occurs for me, and it constantly happens all the time. It's almost become a habit of great habit. Where I have to speak my thoughts. My manager, and I swear, I think I've talked about this before, but my manager has told me, he's asked me if I reply to myself, and I wanted to slap him so hard because of the fact that you're not listening to me. I speak my thoughts. And it was like, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like as if you have that inner voice in your head isn't there. The inner voice of when you think. Take a normal thought that you are thinking right now. Think of something. Usually there is a narrator inside your head, whether it is obvious or not of a narrator, it's there, describing, or maybe you are thinking of a sentence. But for me, I have to speak it sometimes. There are times where I have to speak my thoughts, and I have to say them out loud. Otherwise, it feels like I'm not thinking at all. Now, this doesn't occur all the time. It's not like I'm constantly talking no matter where I go. There are times where I'm in heavy thought. In heavy thought, I have to apply this. Otherwise, it feels like I'm not thinking at all. And it's not a bad thing, but what unfortunately happens is that I'll be talking under my breath, and then everyone thinks I'm talking to someone who's not there, when in reality, I'm just speaking my thoughts. And that can get kind of a pain. Now, I am kind of a loss of what exactly fully to talk about in terms of autism. It is Autism Acceptance Month, Autism Acceptance Month. And there are a lot of complex things that occur in terms of autism. The first thing you have to understand, society, is that it's a spectrum. For some reason, society likes to think that, you have autism, therefore everyone is the same. And I think there's this unfortunate concept that people with autism is great at math. I kind of fall in that category. I'm pretty decent at math. I'm very decent at math. The problem is you have to have a good teacher to show me the math. I can't learn it on my own. And I have this really bad feeling someone's going to make an autism Asian joke one of these days, and I'm going to want to kill a bitch. But it's hard for society to understand. And autism is not something I can just shut off. It is a born perception of the way you see things. And I did a podcast already on perception and learning and autism and learning. If anybody's interested in that, it's one of my older posts. But one thing that people need to understand is that, okay, here's one that I always hear. Somebody posted on their Tumblr, and I don't want to step away from Tumblr. Tumblr will be my little mini theme going on here, because there's actually quite a few posts that were made autism worthy because of the fact that it is Autism Awareness Month. So I apologize beforehand if you hear me clicking away trying to find some of these posts, especially since it's Friday night. Everyone's posting like crazy. Let me see if I can find it. But anyway, there are problems that occur when it comes to the outside world and society and trying to understand us autistic, aspy people. And it becomes quite a problem. I'm not going to mention names, but I'm going to find a section here. Somebody posted on Tumblr Let's see if I can find it. All my life I've been thrust into social situations that I have not been ready for or capable of handling because someone thought my innocent protests were just me being stubborn and not desperate. Please do not be placed into most likely humiliating situations. Other times I've been excluded from activities with friends because it was assumed that I would not go, or that I'd have a meltdown. I've been told there's no way I could have Asperger's because I have a great sense of humor and can carry out conversation. Even today, as a 23-year-old, my family doesn't understand how I can do social activities, but not others. I get accused of using my Asperger's as an excuse to get out of doing things that I do not wish to do. That is horse crap. How dare you tell me that I use my social issues, something that has made my life a living hell at times and left me with scars for life, as some cheap, cowardly ploy to make life easier. That is me in a nutshell. This concept of understanding society. Society has this really harsh understanding of Asperger's. For the unfortunate reason is that everyone with Asperger's goes through things differently. And one of the things you have to understand is perception. Now, I know I already did a podcast, but here's a basic thing here, okay? Perception is the idea of how we receive information and how we engage on it and how we process it. I'm trying to think of the definition that I used for the podcast, but dictionary. This perception that everyone has been causing problems in the autistic world, and I hope that I can get an idea through your guys' head. Yeah, quit using the word perceiving. I hate that. Perception, the act of perceiving. The act or faculty of perceiving or apprehending by means of the sense of the mind, cognition and understanding. Perception equals understanding. Now, autism is a perception. Fact. Autism is a perspective. Here's the thing. When it comes to autism, you have this already preordained understanding of how the world works. Everyone is born with a perception. I've already made a podcast about this. You are born with a perception, and it is your own perception. It is how you receive information. Here's the thing, though. The way autism does is it messes it up. And here's the thing. You're born that way. So there's no previous normal stat. In fact, I don't think there even is such a thing as a normal stat of perception. Perception is unique. There is no normal, there's either an extreme high or an extreme low based on your experiences, the way your brain processes information, and where you live, who you talk to. Many things around you affect your perception. The activities that happen, the life events that occur to you changes. Autism does something more. It is the cup. Perception, events, people, ideas, things, that is the sand. Autism's the cup, okay? Everyone else in the world who are not on these autism spectrums have normal cups. They have the normal standardized red, I hate to say the beer drinking cups, but the red beer drinking cups. Autistic people have clear wavy cups, or one might have a cup that's the shape of a dog, or one person might have a shape of a duck. I don't know. A shape of a otter and a hedgehog. Hey, reference Tumblr if you know what I'm referencing. But anyway, so you get the idea here, I hope. So you're born with that, okay? So when this person posted about this and said, even today as a 23-year-old, my family doesn't understand how I can do some activities but not others. I get accused of using my Asperger's as an excuse to get out of doing things that I do not wish to do. Here's the thing. That's my life, okay? The reason why I'm not at my normal house anymore is because one of the reasons is my dad kept telling me I don't want to hear Asperger's as an excuse anymore. Why didn't you clean your room? Because I was severely distracted with schoolwork, and I'm really, really worn out from the fact that I have to vacuum 3 days a week. I'm actually exhausted. Every other day I have to vacuum. That's really silly. Why do I have to do it? Because it has to be done. Right, I can do that like twice a week, right? No, it has to be done. Okay, I have homework and school I have part-time school, part-time work. Can I, like, do it some other time? No, stop using your Asperger's as an excuse. Oh, you want to get out? I'm sorry, you have to do this first. I go and do it. Well, now you can leave. Well, it's like 8 o'clock now. I'm not going out now. Or another day would be where I don't want to go out, and then they get angry at me because they wonder why I don't have social interaction skills. This is getting annoying. The reason why I left was because my dad kept telling me, why don't you want to go out? Because I don't want to. And then the one times I do want to go out, something always came up. Like, oh, crap, I have homework. Or crap, I have to do this chore list because I'm not allowed to leave the house at the age of 23. You know, it wasn't okay for me. It wasn't okay for me to leave when I wanted to and didn't want to, and I'm an adult. So I hear this person. I know what this person is going through to a very fair degree, because people have this perceptual idea that we are using this thing called Asperger's as a temporary fix, as a temporary interesting fix. Okay, let's say, for example, that most people probably perceive Asperger's and autism as a thing that comes and goes. That's a thing that everyone keeps misperceiving. Autism comes and goes. No, it does not come and go. The symptoms, air quote, might come and go, but that doesn't mean they're Asperger's for so long and then it corrects itself. It doesn't work that way. We're constantly in this battle, figuring things out, and constantly having to have this battle in our heads, trying to perceive the way you want us to perceive when we just can't perceive the way you want us to. And when we finally get it right, they think we're corrected, and they think we're healing, which is a really offensive term, by the way. Stop using it. And then we're stuck having to think about, okay, I did that right. But when the situation occurs again, you might not get it right again because it's different people and you're getting different signals again. People to us, to the person, in my case at least, I can't speak for everyone here, but when I have a situation occur and I catch on to it and I say, okay, I got that. That makes sense. Okay, I know what that means. My eyes and my head sees it again. I do the exact same thing and I'm wrong. This is a very big theme in the world of autism. Raise your hand if you feel like every damn day you've done something wrong. And I'm not talking about answering a question incorrectly in school, like, oh, what's 64 divided by 8? Nobody cares, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, oh, you did something, you're wrong. Oh, you said something awkward, you're wrong. Oh, that's not how you clean the sink, you're wrong. Oh, that's not how you act appropriate. You're wrong. 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 I just made up a word. You're wrong. You wrong. That's a word now. Hashtag you wrong. But how can I be wrong? When the brain is wired differently, that's been since the day I was being conceived in the womb. You know, by assumption and by contraception here, okay? Because I'm sorry, you have autism all your life. I don't know what causes it. Vaccines, don't know. Parental treatment, we know is not the case anymore. And we all know that the whole idea behind autism is not something that can be correctly fixed. I have no problem with going to some kind of therapy to help me learn social skills and try to therapeutically understand how to work the world, because the world won't work with me, which is sad. But I do have a problem with people. I had a manager who actually asked me, and it wasn't autism related, but it was ADHD related, because I do have ADHD on top of all this, which explains how I'm able to talk without having to take a breath, or what seems like taking a breath. But she basically asked me if I thought about taking medication. This was for ADHD, not autism. But that's still none of your damn business. If somebody says, have you thought about taking medication, you get in their face and talk about, oh, medication? Okay, so you're trying to tell me, by the way, this applies to a lot of mental disabilities. Let's say depression, because I'm going to get onto that in a minute. Depression, I'm depressed. Here, take some medicine. Wow, that means I'll be taking medication for the rest of my life. What do you mean? The problem hasn't been solved. It's just going to come back. You're basically telling me that medication is supposed to solve the problem. So here's my problem with it. So, let's say something happens and you break a leg. What do they tell you to do? Go to the hospital and fix the leg. Put it in a cast, realign it, put it in a cast. Okay, so I'm depressed. Let's say people passed away, very clear friends have passed away, have lost my car and lost my home. Let's give her medication. That makes no fucking sense. No. You know how you help her? You help her how to get back on her fucking feet. Medication doesn't solve the fucking problem. By the way, everybody's like, go to a therapist, you'll feel better. No, going to a therapist doesn't make you feel better. Therapist is supposed to be able to show you and help you how to get out of the depressive state or whatever disability somehow you have. Some of them can and cannot be fixed, like, autism. But a therapist isn't there to make you feel better. And a therapist is supposed to be there to help you recover or learn to take the steps that is necessary to get back to where you were before the depression occurred. That is their job. Their job is to get you back on your freaking feet. They're not there to make you feel better. I mean, they can. That is partial part of the job, but when the part of it is that you're trying to get back on your feet from the ones that was the shadow that follows your every step of your back, going every day and trying not to turn around and cry because you know it's going to swallow you up, you know damn well that the therapist is not doing his job, and just feeling better is not going to change the fact that there's a shadow behind your back. It doesn't change a damn thing, and it applies the same way with autism. Here's the thing with autism, it's not fucking curable. And even if there was a goddamn cure, nobody wants it unless they're having seizures. Quote here from me that doesn't apply to everyone, but a good majority of us do not want a cure. If not the mass majority, if not all of us. There are some of us who go through physical disabilities such as like seizures. That I can understand. That's dangerous. That can cause problems. I can see perfectly fine finding a medication that can help with the seizures. Fine. But don't you dare tell me that I was born broken. Don't you dare tell me that my brain was wired wrong and I need some sort of freaking surgery. I'll tell you what. I don't think I'd be this perceptive if it weren't for Asperger's. I think I'd rather keep it. And speaking of depression, I know a lot of people who have Asperger's and autism have depression. And a stupid idiot would love to say that autism causes depression. Symptoms may apply. I hate that fucking line, by the way. Autism, symptoms may include, but not limited to, depression, anxiety, sickness, loneliness, whatever. Autism, quote me here, kids, okay? Autism does not cause depression. You can't see me read my lips, but you can listen to them. Listen up, kids. Autism does not cause depression. I will praise by this line. Why? I have no problem with my Asperger's. I have no problem with it at all. I love the fact that I get excited to the point to where my arms shake. I love that I can perceive things a little bit differently than the world, and I can sometimes read and can't read. You know what makes me depressed? The fact that you fucker society decides that it's okay to not understand, accept, and become aware of the fact that maybe there are things I can't quite perceive because my brain is wired differently, something I can't control, nor do I want to change because it has advantages that I wish to keep. And you guys think it's okay to just run around town saying that I'm just this horrible person and etc., and make me feel like shit because of something I can't change, therefore depression. Autism doesn't cause depression. You all do. Society. You cause my depression. I'm not taking medication because of you fuckers. It ain't gonna be you guys. They're gonna let me shut down and become depressed. I'm happy being an Aspie. Yeah, I have problems with communication, but I have no problem with going to a therapist. I can figure that out. It'll take quite some time to figure it out, but I'll do it. And just because I figure out how to become socially socially acceptable. But once I become socially acceptable, doesn't mean I'm cured of autism. It just means I now know the proper steps. Okay? Let's say that everyone has an escalator. Everyone's an escalator. Their process of learning is an escalator. The way their brain functions is an escalator. Let's then assume that your stairs, those with autism and Asperger's, is a stairway. You get exhausted and slow down. It's going to happen. You're going to get exhausted and slow down because you can't keep up with everyone else. They're going the same speed or relatively close to the same speed. You're all still down on the first floor and they're up on the third. So what you do, you run. You run. You keep running. And you keep up and you catch up. But you're still running. And you're going to keep running. And everyone thinks you're going to be normal because you're level with them. When in actuality, that stairway is never going to become an escalator. And then you're going to get tired, and you're going to have to stop and slow down and walk again. And then you're going to be considered that you got sick again when you've been sick the whole damn time. Assuming you want to use the word sick, by the way, according to their definition. So just because you have this escalator on their side, you can't hop over either. There's glass walls, concrete walls, see-through walls, whatever. You will always forever be on that stairway. You'll never get that escalator. You'll never get that perception you want. Your perception is your own. And you're stuck on that stairway because that's how your brain perceives information. That's how you process it. You are on a stairway, and they're on an escalator. But you must be normal because you're going at the same rate we are. You're catching up. Yay! Go fuck yourself. So sorry for that tangent. So, what can we do? Well, not a whole lot. I mean, there's no real cure. Everyone gets afraid of the stims. Don't be afraid of stims, by the way, regardless of whether you're on the spectrum or not. Parents, if you have a child who has autism, don't be afraid of the stims. Unless it causes harm to them or others or things, such as maybe you're spinning around and you hit some glass. That's dangerous. It's physically dangerous. There's nothing wrong with spinning so long as it's in a controlled environment, because otherwise they can hurt themselves. But there should be nothing wrong with it. It's how they're processing the information. It's how they're able to calm themselves and think and process and learn and take in. You all stim, whether you're on autistic or an Aspie or a neurotypical person, a normal person. You stim. Remember those old cord phones, the ones with the curls in them, and you took your finger and you wrapped around the curls? Guess what? You're stimming. Remember when you used to take an eraser and tap it on the countertop? That's a stim. Remember when you chew bubblegum and blow it in the middle of math class? That's stimming. Remember when you would pick your hair? Twirl your hair? Tap your feet? Sigh and cross your arms? That's a stim to a point. Those are all stims. Those are, and many others, they're all stims. But because we show ours a little more vibrantly and more excessively, we are then succumbed to the fact that we are weird and stupid and retarded because we move, apparently, like we're retarded. I've seen autistics where their hands are really close, like I call them velociraptor hands, and they're up really close to their chest, and they shake because they're excited and they can't handle the information that's being delivered to them for whatever positive or negative reason. Therefore, they're retarded, which makes no sense. By the way, on the term of intellect, I want to get into this real quick. There are people who go to take an IQ test. And there's a big debate out in the world right now whether or not autistics have intelligence. And I must stress, autistics are quite intelligent. They are very, very intelligent. You know what the problem is? IQ tests are not built for Aspies. They're not. They're not built for the autistic community, especially. Problem is, unless you're verbal, and even if you are verbal, it's not going to help. Here's the thing. IQ tests are based on verbal response. And even if you found a way, hand sign, type, respond in some kind of communicative manner? It doesn't matter. Because answers on an IQ test are very 99% accurate to the one specific answer, and it causes problems. Here's why. If a person was asked, your two friends are getting married, what will you ask them? If you don't come up with an answer, it's marked wrong. You don't have a question for him? No. Oh, guess you're retarded. Do you see how stupid that sounds? Do you hear how stupid that sounds? Okay, I don't know what else you could possibly ask. But if it's not a direct answer, I don't know. Let's say you wanted to answer that question. Oh, your two friends are getting married. What would you ask? What kind of cake are you having? It's not a socially acceptable answer, but it is a question nonetheless you could ask. Sounds a little rude now that I've said it like a million times. Because, it sounds like as if you're asking if you are getting invited, therefore you're wondering if the cake is going to be any good and worth it. But that's not necessarily what you mean by it. You mean, that cake is a very big part of weddings, and maybe you're asking, what kind of wedding cake are you going to have? Like, what's expected of this cake? I know that's a big part of the wedding ceremony. What are you getting, Is it going to be really pretty? Is it going to be like this big, humongous thing? That's not acceptable based on IQ tests. It's not acceptable at all. IQ tests are very anti-autism. And because of it, those with autism get very, very low IQ scores. Ironically, they have quite high intelligence. I've seen autistic people do homework for their siblings who are 3 to 4 grades higher than them. That's not interesting. I don't know what is. So, confusion, perception, beautiful thing. I don't think there's anything beyond that which we need to get people to understand the perceptions. Now, for those of you who are on the spectrum, there's only one Tumblr page I can recommend if you haven't got it already. And I just found it. I've seen other people post from their blogs, but I never actually followed them. I just found their page. That's actually what took me so long to record this, was that I was trying to find the Tumblr page because I wanted to read some of these off and whether they apply to me or not. Okay, here we go. The Tumblr page is Problems of an Aspie. PROBLEMS, problems, OFANASPIE.tumblr.com. I love this site. I love Tumblr in general, but I love this page, Problem of an Aspie. And here is why. I'm going to go to the very beginning. Here we go. I went too far. Of course. Here we go. Okay. They post these little short sentences that every Aspie goes through that is normally not part of the original 3 pies. You guys remember a long time ago when I mentioned that there's a 3-piece pie? There's an invisible little 4th sliver. These apply. Some of them apply to the other 3 pieces, but a good majority of these do not apply. This one applies to physical. I used to do this when I was a kid, but I don't so much anymore. In fact, I take a shower. I put my hand in the shower and I test the water before I get in. This one states, taking 5 minutes to get the shower to the right temperature because you're so sensitive. I used to do that as a kid. When you get lost in thought or really absorbed in something and you suddenly come back around and everyone laughs, that applies to me up until everyone laughs. I've never really had anyone laugh at me just because I was too deep in thought. I had that happen to me, I think, actually might have happened to me once when I was really young in elementary school, and then I kind of gained a little bit better control of it. When you're so slight that even the unpopular kids bully you. Yeah, I had that problem. When your best workout, love this, is pacing around the room to the same song over and over again. Yes, that is me. That moment when you want to say something, but other people keep talking and the time to say the thing has passed. Yeah, I freaking hate that. That's the biggest communication issue I have. You want to say something, but other people keep talking and the time to say the thing has passed. You can't... Oh, this is so hard to explain to people. I once told a person that I have a problem with communicating over the phone, especially with my mother, because I don't know when it's okay to jump in. And I talk over my mom, or she'll talk over me, and then it's my fault, and that I should know better. That hurts a lot. Because I just can't tell. I can't freaking tell. Oh, here we go. Being able to sing complicated jazz melodies, not being able to play them on the piano because you forget the tunes the second your fingers touch the keys. Oh my god, I thought I was the only one. Having to mute music or the TV every time you want to talk, because if you try to have it on while doing so, you find yourself incapable of talking. Sometimes that happens to me, not always, but sometimes they do. When people don't understand that you've had enough and push you to do more than you can handle. Yeah, that happens a lot. A lot. Being afraid to leave your own house on Halloween and fear that someone or something may scare you. No. I've never had that problem because I find Halloween rather fun, but I could see that could be a problem for some. When you can hear people shutting their car doors halfway down the street. Sometimes. It really depends. I actually don't have very good hearing. I have a poor sense of smell and a poor sense of hearing. So I actually don't pick up on those senses. I have poor eyesight as well. When you are always there to help others, but people think you're just being nosy. Oh my god, I get that all the time. What's this? Nope, not what I wanted. Older. When you try to look someone in the eyes and your eyes twitch uncomfortably until you look away. I don't have that problem. Actually, I can see people perfectly fine into their eyes. I do have to turn away, but I don't eye twitch or anything. I actually just need to take a break away from people's faces sometimes. I do talk without looking them in the eye, but nobody's ever made anything of it because apparently people don't notice. I don't know how you don't notice the fact that I don't look you in the eye, but okay. Not buying something that you really need because you don't want to go into a shop full of people that you don't know. That used to be a problem for me. I didn't get into that too much, but that for me was really easy to get over. When I was little, it used to be. When someone demonstrates a romantic interest in you and you feel the same, but you find it impossible to express your feelings towards them. Yeah, I can see where that's a problem in the Aspie community. I never had that problem, but I know people who have. People insisting you just need to socialize more and all your problems will disappear. There's the number one right there. People insist you just need to socialize more and all your problems will disappear. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Like I said before with the perception, perception is an interesting thing. It really is. Because here's something that I should have probably mentioned. Last main point, and then I'll read a couple of these off, and then we'll close off for the night, for I need to save this and take a shower and go to bed. But for anybody who has this Asperger's thing and autism, is that instinct isn't always there, or you may have different forms of it. Sorry, hiccups. It's like wheezing my voice. But it's almost instinct. There are many social things that a lot of society takes advantage of, and it forces people to assume that everyone has the primal instincts, things that you take for granted. Society notices communication and knows when a person is being a certain way and knows when a person is supposed to act or how they're supposed to jump into communication. For those with autism and Asperger's, this is a big problem. People insisting you just need to socialize more. Here's the problem. If socialization, by theory, and the way that we are able to catch and know things that are not physically there, things that we just have to take by nature, are things that you guys take advantage of, and if autism discards that, then how will socializing more bring it out when we never had it to begin with? Autism, I feel, takes away certain instincts, and then it brings out other instincts instead. It replaces these instincts that everyone has, and people have instinct, regardless of whether you have autism or Asperger's or whatever. I love how one of the tags on this post is unicorn. I just realized that. #unicorn. But the problem is that people think, just go socialize more. Here's the problem. If you have, let's take the run-of-the-mill guy who just never socialized. Let's say he's neurotypical. If he goes out and socializes with people, even if he never has for 13 years, from birth to 13 years old, he will learn how to socialize within due time. About the length of a 2-hour movie, that's about, that can vary. But a matter of a couple months, he'll know how to communicate with people. It'll take him time, but his instincts will reoccur. His instinct to know when something is to be said, he will be able to do so because it's already there. For a person of autism and Asperger's, that instinct, air quote instinct, is not there or is reversed or is replaced. So you end up with this concept of just go socialize more. I can't. Why? Because I don't know how. Well, then here. Push. Okay, what do I do? You're stuck. You don't have an understanding of how to get out there. So that instinct is not there. It's like being born without a right arm and then being asked to write with your right arm. And then they hand you a claw telling you to use it, but you have to use your left arm because you don't have a right arm to use the claw with. So you go to grab it with your left arm, and then you're told, hey, here it comes again. You're wrong. Remember that. It's like having to write with your right arm, but you don't have a right arm. They give you a claw to use so you can reach farther. They tell you to use your right arm, so you use your left because you don't have a right arm. And then they tell you, no. They would have to cut a scission into my arm and attach wires to my nerve endings just so you could make it move to my brain. I feel that's the only thing they'd be able to do is to put something inside of our brain so we'd be able to pick it up, and I don't want that. So don't do that to us because we don't have that instinct. It's not there. Please don't force us. People insisting you can't be an Aspie because you have feelings. I have not had that yet, but I sympathize and empathize. Sympathize? Empathize? Really the same thing? Opposites of the same coin? For anybody who goes through that, because everyone keeps assuming that those with Asperger's don't have emotions. I cry. I get angry. I get happy. I get excited. I have feelings. I care. Everyone with Asperger's and autism cares. They do. Otherwise, when they did something wrong and someone gets angry at them, they wouldn't question it. They wouldn't say, wait, why are you upset? They wouldn't show fear. They would react. It doesn't matter how hot it is, you must sleep with a heavy blanket. Oh my god, is that so true? I think that's true in a lot of people, not just autistics in general. You have trouble expressing your problems because they are not with the other person's realm of experience. Ugh, so true. When you've specifically told your friends about that specific body part you do not want them touching, and they still touch you there because they think it's funny. I don't have that problem, luckily, but I know certain people who do. I have a friend who I went to karate with. She has Asperger's. Touch her lightly and she squirms. Hug her and she's fine. I have no idea why her brain translates it that way, but it's kind of, I feel bad because it says because they think it's funny, but I used to pick on her, and I feel really bad for doing that, but she still takes it very lightly with me because we're both Aspies, so we just play with each other like that. So it's no harm done. When you're someone tries to hug you and the hug feels painful. Yeah, I've heard people with that problem. Getting all, the one I was just reading, when you're upset and someone tries to hug you and the hug feels painful. Getting flustered and panicky when someone asks you for directions. Being asked to read aloud, give presentations, and having to explain to your teacher in an extraordinarily manner why you cannot do the assignment. That's interesting. Being genuinely upset and scared by horror movies. I get really upset and scared by horror movies. Yeah. Okay, here we go. When you are dying to talk to someone, you just can't figure out how to do it without being extremely awkward, and you repetitively go over the scenarios in your head until you are on to something new. That's me in the middle of the night. Okay, last one. Let's see if I can find one. Yeah, that happens a lot. Instantly assuming someone's your friend because they've managed to reply to something you've said, and feeling guilty because you feel you're constantly badgering them. There's a whole slew of these. There's a whole bunch of them on here. Because there's a line, you don't want to stand with all the people. Not being able to wear any of the clothes that people got you for your birthday because the fabric hurts. Being overly touchy with people you like, but freaking out over uninvited touch. Feeling like people are yelling at you when they're speaking at a normal volume. Never had that problem. Again, I have poor volume. I'm just going through these. I need to stop. We're an hour into this thing. When you're really intently focused on something you're doing or straightening something and someone stops you. So yeah, go to problemsofanaspie.tumblr.com. They have a lot of great scenarios that you can read up on. They're really great. I really advise anyone who is on the spectrum and don't feel bad, don't feel alone. Because you're not. 1 in 80 kids have autism or Aspergers of some kind. Do not feel bad. Do not feel like you're the only one, because you're not. Do not feel like you have to. Because you're not alone, okay? I get you. I get what you're going through, and if I don't fully know what you're going through, I sympathize, because I'm sorry, I'm looking at GIFs of elementary. Haha! By the way, Sherlock from BBC is better. Also, if I can give one last piece of advice of those who are not on the spectrum and want to learn more, don't look at fiction. Do not read fiction. Do not watch it. It will never explain to you what autism is like. Watch documentaries. Go hang out with someone who has Asperger's. Go talk to someone with autism. Yes, I said it. Go talk to someone with autism. I'm not kidding. Even if they're not verbal, they can understand you. They know what you're saying. Don't rely on fiction to give you the answer. Don't watch Rain Man. It's an example. You can't fully understand it. I know what autism is because I watched Rain Man. Go fuck yourself. It's not the answer. So anyway, please send in anything you want to talk about to my email. You can go to my previous podcast, prsfilms@rocketmail.com, and I will gladly answer any questions you have there. This is Megan for MYPC, Musie's YouTube podcast. I will be talking to you all later. Hopefully this wasn't too long of a chat, and I can now go take my shower, and I can get this thing started to upload, and then, yay! Sorry for the tangent. I will be back to regular subjects once the month of April is over, and once finals are over. I do believe that's like a month away, so hopefully that won't be too hard. Again, thank you all for listening. Post comments down below of any of your stories, concerns, comments, questions. Please no fashion tips. I will not listen to them. I will see you all later. Again, this is Megan, aka Musie, for the Musie YouTube podcast on YouTube at PRS Films. Please feel free to comment below. I will talk to you all later. Peace out. And go learn about autism, for it is Autism Acceptance Month. Peace out, guys, and hang tight.